Hey everyone, today I thought I would look at sort of tips and tricks on how to improve very, very simple chord progressions. So if you like having a 2-chord progression, for example, how do you make that sound a little bit more interesting? So if we take the 2-chord masterpieces that exist out there in the world, these are great musical compositions that at their base are only really using 2 chords, sometimes only 1 chord actually. And they sound amazing, and they generally have something all in common. There is either this amazing vocal composition or vocal performance there. There is either a really amazing lead or other musical ensemble that's sort of helping to develop that and helping to make those 2 chords, that foundation actually shine, if you like. But when you strip it all back, strip that vocal performance away, strip that lead performance out, strip all the other ensemble instruments, and you're left with just that 2-chord progression, it can sound a little bit uninteresting and dull. And that's not a bad thing by any means, because that's generally part of musical composition. However, if you're in your room and you're playing the guitar and you only have a simple chord progression, it can sound a little bit dull if all you're doing is... You know? So you need to figure out ways to make that sound a little bit more dynamic. And that's the key word, being dynamic, being variable, so having variation in your playing. Maybe it's just your approach to the composition, your technique, or just a style adaptation. Whatever the case is, by going through those modes, you can end up completely changing the composition, of course, but to me, that's actually part of the creative process. So let's look at some very simple ways of doing this. Number one, of course, would be to interlay some form of lead within your playing. So if you have a 2-chord progression, let's say it's A and F sharp minor, you could do something very simple like this. Yeah? Maybe we add a different chord in, a 3rd chord to sort of... Real easy. Let's try a different example. Something that's a bit more interesting to me. So that was just really based around A minor and G. There's nothing, okay, I did cheat a little bit, I threw in an F shape there. But that sort of intermixing a little bit of lead play with rhythmic as well makes it sound more interesting. So talking of rhythm, actually, the second thing that you can do to drastically improve and make simple chord progression sound more interesting is to do what really good rhythm guitarists do quite often, is alternate their strumming pattern. Now, this can include tempo changes, which makes it a little bit more challenging to perform, but to give you a real simple example of what I mean, here we go. Yeah, there's nothing overly challenging about that, but it's just subtly changing your rhythmic pattern as you're going through the song. It helps just even a simple chord progression like A minor and E7 develop into something more interesting, I think. So the third, I could just leave it at guitar picking and say, by doing some guitar picking, yeah, obviously that's going to make a big difference to your guitar playing. But one thing I think is even easier to actually achieve is to do like a sort of a hybrid guitar picking where you're actually doing rhythmic picking. All that means is you're playing rhythm, but you're interlacing sort of a picking pattern at the same time. And it sounds a bit like this. there's so much you can do with it, especially if you're more experienced at finger picking or just picking in general. And you can try sort of interlacing that with alternate rhythm. You can see we can help that develop. Even very simple chord progressions can suddenly become quite dynamic in their sound. Again, this wasn't meant to be an exhaustive list. This was just meant to provide 3 really simple ways to help boost the overall sound and compositional potential that you have. So I'm going to end off with a really fun piece of music I like to play that I think exemplifies what I've been talking about. It incorporates a very simple pick pattern followed by sort of a rhythmic section and then an alternate rhythmic piece to help sort of elevate it a little bit. Anyway, I'll see you next time.